I stared out at the towering pines through the floor-to-ceiling glass, feeling a strange mix of relief and unease. The dense trees stood sentinel around Brandon's isolated house, their shadows dancing in the fading light. Each gust of wind seemed to carry whispers from the forest, pulling me into a world both inviting and forbidding. I took a deep breath, hoping to shake off the exhaustion that clung to me like a second skin. The lingering weariness from months of travel weighed heavily on my shoulders, but the quiet promised by this sanctuary in Ashwood Pines felt like a balm for my restless spirit. I could almost hear the sigh of relief as I sank into the plush couch, my body grateful for a moment of stillness. As I settled in, my gaze fell upon a handwritten note resting on the coffee table. It was from Brandon Hayes, welcoming me and offering dinner, an act of kindness that struck me as both thoughtful and subtly unsettling. I sipped rich hot chocolate, savoring its warmth while watching golden beams of afternoon light filter through the trees. The almost tactile silence enveloped me like a comforting blanket, but beneath it lurked an unsettling awareness that I couldn't quite place. A persistent soreness between my shoulder blades tugged at my attention, a minor discomfort I dismissed as sleeping wrong, yet it echoed in my mind like an alarm bell. Drawn by an irresistible aroma wafting up from downstairs, I walked toward the source of the scent, roasted vegetables and fresh bread beckoning me closer. My stomach growled unexpectedly despite having indulged in wine earlier, perhaps it was simply the lure of home-cooked food after so long on the road. With each step down the staircase, anticipation quickened my pulse. As I reached the bottom step, laughter floated up from the kitchen, a sound that struck me oddly yet warmly. It felt foreign yet familiar at once. "Brandon?" My voice trembled slightly as I called out, unsure if he was expecting me or lost in his own world. "Just finishing up," he replied cheerfully. The sound reverberated off the walls and filled me with a sense of ease that contradicted my earlier apprehension. I stepped into the kitchen and saw him moving around with fluid grace, chopping vegetables with practiced hands while humming softly to himself. His smile brightened when he noticed me standing there, and for a fleeting moment, it felt as if all my worries could melt away in his presence. "Hey! Dinner will be ready soon," he said warmly, gesturing toward a plate piled high with colorful veggies waiting to be roasted further in the oven. "You hungry?" "Starving," I admitted with a chuckle that surprised even myself. It seemed so easy to laugh here amidst him and those savory scents. However, another part of me hesitated, still processing how quickly things had shifted since stepping into this house. As we chatted over dinner preparations about everything from travel tales to our favorite books, I couldn't shake off that nagging sensation lingering just beneath the surface of our conversation, the feeling that something else was at play here beyond just two strangers sharing a meal. With every bite I took of delicious roasted vegetables and warm bread slathered in butter, an undercurrent tugged at my thoughts. There was an intensity behind Brandon's gaze when he spoke about this place. The way his eyes sparkled when he mentioned local legends made my heart race with excitement mingled with apprehension. "You know," he said suddenly, leaning back against the counter while wiping his hands on a towel. "This cabin has quite a history." My interest peaked instantly as curiosity replaced some of my trepidation. "What do you mean?" He hesitated for just a heartbeat before continuing. "People say it used to belong to someone who... well, let's just say they didn't leave on good terms." The air grew heavier between us as his words hung uncomfortably in silence. Unease crept back into my chest like ivy wrapping itself around my heart, a reminder that this sanctuary might not be entirely safe after all. "I remember hearing rumors about strange occurrences," he added casually but with an edge that cut through his nonchalance. "Footsteps when no one is there, shadows flitting by windows at night." I swallowed hard. Those tales stirred something primal within me, an instinctual fear rooted deep down where logic often faltered under pressure. Before I could respond or even articulate what ran through my mind at that moment, fear mingling with intrigue, I realized how tense my shoulders had become without noticing until now. "Just stories," Brandon reassured with an easy smile again, yet I sensed an undercurrent beneath his words, a hint of something darker lurking behind them. My heart raced at this sudden shift in atmosphere. Dinner had become more than just food, it was now wrapped tightly around unspoken truths waiting to unravel themselves over time spent together here in Ashwood Pines. And then came another wave. The odd realization hit me: if I hadn't come here searching for escape from grief's relentless grasp, would any of this have unfolded? The sensation buzzed through every nerve ending within me as if teasing out uncharted territory waiting ahead, something exciting yet sinister coiling silently within these walls where shadows danced unseen beyond mere candlelight illuminating our makeshift sanctuary tonight. If you're enjoying this tale so far and want to uncover more secrets hidden beneath these layers, leave your like. I collapsed into the king-sized bed, its crisp white linens a stark contrast to my worn travel clothes. The mattress gave just right, enveloping me in an embrace that promised comfort. My eyelids felt heavy, and I surrendered to the pull of sleep, hoping it would wash away the remnants of my journey. The stillness of the cabin wrapped around me like a warm blanket, lulling me into a false sense of security. At that moment, I woke abruptly to a hard pressure against my spine. It was an annoyance that immediately stole my comfort and made me shift uncomfortably. I reached back, trying to smooth out what felt like a raised ridge beneath the fitted sheet. Was it a broken spring? My heart began to race as I wondered if this was some quirk of an old bed. With irritation creeping in, I rolled to the left side, where the surface felt normal, desperate to recapture the elusive peace of sleep. But rest eluded me. I sat up in a sudden surge of pain, my back screamed in protest as if warning me against any further movement. The lump had somehow migrated directly beneath me again, and with each passing second, my unease mounted. I pressed down on the significant raised area, maybe 18 inches across, desperate to flatten it out. As my fingers traced its contours, I felt distinct curves beneath my hands. A chill raced down my spine as recognition hit like ice water. It was not just any shape, it was an outline of a nose, lips, and a chin pressing into the mattress. My blood ran cold as panic surged through me. A horrifying realization struck: something, or someone, was beneath me. In that moment, instinct kicked in. I scrambled backward with a wordless shriek tearing from my throat. The thud of my body hitting the hardwood floor sent shockwaves through my frame, jarring every nerve awake. My breath quickened as adrenaline flooded my system, fear clutched at my throat like a vice grip. I looked up at the bed, heart racing wildly in my chest, eyes darting over its surface for any sign of movement or anything else that might confirm what I had just experienced. Nothing stirred above me except for shadows cast by moonlight filtering through the window. Still trembling, I pushed myself up onto shaky legs and glanced around the room. A suffocating silence enveloped me like fog rolling in from the sea. Every creak in the cabin amplified my anxiety as if unseen eyes were watching from every corner. I felt compelled to find something solid, a weapon or even just reassurance, that might quell this inexplicable terror gripping me so tightly. But as I searched through drawers and cabinets with frantic urgency, dread seeped deeper into my bones. Everything appeared untouched and ordinary: books lined neatly on shelves, fresh towels folded meticulously, even Brandon's earlier laughter echoed softly in memory but now felt hauntingly distant. Then suddenly came a sound, soft yet distinct, a rustling from under the bed that cut through the silence like glass shattering on tile. My heart pounded furiously against my ribcage as dread settled heavily within me again. With each passing second, curiosity battled against sheer terror. Part of me wanted desperately to confront whatever lurked below while another part screamed for escape. "Brandon?" My voice wavered on the edge of hysteria as I called out for him but received no response, a void that only deepened my unease further still. I took cautious steps towards where shadows mingled with darkness beneath the bed frame, every instinct urging caution while curiosity gnawed at me insistently. Kneeling down slowly on trembling knees brought forth an unexpected rush of cold air. It sent chills racing up and down my arms like tiny electric shocks. In one last surge of courage fueled by desperation for answers or perhaps closure, I peered underneath with wide eyes brimming with fear and wonder alike. And there it was. The unmistakable outline seemed almost corporeal now, a figure stretched upon itself like it was waiting patiently for something, or someone. I recoiled instinctively but couldn't tear myself away from staring at it. There was something undeniably wrong about this sight, the mere thought clawing at sanity itself with raw desperation. Suddenly footsteps echoed behind me, heavy and deliberate, as Brandon emerged into view with an expression that matched mine, confusion mixed with an unsettling awareness that pierced through his calm demeanor. "What happened?" he asked cautiously while glancing toward where I knelt frozen before him. I opened my mouth but no words came forth, only silence echoed between us both amid mounting tension rising higher than before. As reality crashed back around us, an understanding took shape. Whatever lay hidden beneath that bed wasn't merely an illusion, it had manifested itself right before our very eyes. And then it all spiraled, the noise returned again, a haunting melody reverberated throughout each corner like whispers entwined within shadows drawing ever closer toward us both. In those moments suspended between fear and uncertainty, I knew one thing without doubt: we were no longer alone. I remember the moment I heard Brandon's voice calling from the other room, his tone light yet laced with an undercurrent of concern. Panic surged through me as I struggled to piece together the fragments of my fear. There was a face in the bed. I choked out, my words tumbling over each other in a frantic rush. The image of that horrifying outline haunted my mind, and dread weighed heavily on my chest. Brandon stepped into view, his expression shifting from surprise to something that resembled wonder. I saw it flicker across his face like a shadow passing over a sunlit field, but I couldn't decipher its meaning. My heart raced as I searched his eyes for answers, desperate for reassurance. "What do you mean?" he asked slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. The unease coiled tighter within me as I sensed that he knew more than he was letting on. "You can see my..." His words trailed off, leaving an unsettling silence hanging in the air. A chill wrapped around my spine, sending shivers coursing through me. What did he mean? What deeper truth lay behind his incomplete sentence? Compelled by a force greater than fear itself, I found myself walking back towards the bedroom. My trembling legs carried me forward despite the swirling dread that clouded my thoughts. As I entered the room once more, every instinct screamed at me to turn and flee, yet curiosity pushed me onward. My eyes scanned the space meticulously, searching for any clues or explanations for what I had just experienced. The moonlight cast eerie shadows across the floorboards, lending an otherworldly glow to my surroundings. There had to be something, anything, that could shed light on this dark mystery. In a sudden burst of determination, I knelt down beside the bed and began inspecting every inch of it, my fingers grazed over fabric and wood alike. Then something caught my attention. A glimmer beneath the loose floorboard near the window beckoned me closer. With cautious movements, I pried it up and revealed a small leather-bound journal hidden within its depths. Its cover felt cool against my fingertips as I pulled it free from its hiding place. I felt a sense of urgency wash over me as I flipped through its brittle pages, each one filled with elegant script that seemed to dance before my eyes. It took mere moments for recognition to dawn upon me. These were Sarah Hayes's writings, the very sister whose memory had haunted my dreams for years. As I read her words detailing Brandon's escalating abuse and tormenting presence in her life, a wave of nausea hit me like a freight train. Each entry painted a chilling portrait of suffering and despair, her pain echoed through time like an unending scream trapped in silence. My breath caught in my throat as Brandon's name surfaced repeatedly, not as a victim seeking help but rather as the perpetrator of unspeakable cruelties against Sarah. The realization struck me like lightning. Everything I thought I understood about this place, the laughter shared at dinner and the warmth of companionship, had been built upon lies woven from shadows. As panic threatened to engulf me once more, I gripped the journal tightly, feeling its weight anchor me amidst chaos. A soft rustle came from behind me, just loud enough to draw my attention away from the pages, but when I turned around, nothing was there except for the darkened corners of the room where secrets lurked unseen. I felt cold dread coil tighter in my stomach. This cabin was not merely a sanctuary but a prison holding echoes of torment long buried beneath layers of charm and tranquility. Each creak of wood beneath my feet whispered warnings meant only for those willing to listen closely enough. In that moment of revelation, everything shifted within me. No longer did fear paralyze me. I became resolute in uncovering what lay beneath this facade crafted by Brandon's presence. My heart thundered with purpose as each breath fueled determination instead of despair. The journal slipped from my fingers onto the floor with a soft thud, a reminder that truths often lie hidden until one dares to seek them out courageously. I turned back toward Brandon's direction where shadows pooled like dark water waiting for ripples to disturb their stillness. Even though dread lingered around every corner of this cabin home, something deep inside urged me onward toward confrontation, even if it remained unspoken between us for now. Each step taken solidified resolve within me. This would not end here. Knowledge burned brightly against encroaching darkness threatening to consume all hope left behind in its wake. Finally aware that even if terror lurked just beyond sight's reach, the truth would illuminate every shadow cast by uncertainty, and with each new page revealed, my sister's voice grew louder until it merged seamlessly into mine, demanding recognition long denied while whispering promises etched forever into fate itself. I will not let you forget. I listened intently as Brandon, oblivious to the storm brewing within me, began to explain the ritual. His voice took on a rehearsed, almost manic quality that sent shivers racing down my spine. "This is where it all happens," he said, gesturing toward a circle marked with strange symbols on the floor. My gaze swept over the ritual components he presented: flickering candles, a jar filled with dark liquid that shimmered ominously in the dim light, and aged paper inscribed with cryptic markings. A surge of cold determination coursed through me as I realized what was at stake. "Okay, let's do this," I replied, feigning agreement. My voice emerged steady despite the fear coiling tightly in my gut like a serpent ready to strike. I hoped my outward calm would mask the tempest raging inside me, a desperate attempt to maintain control over my rapidly unraveling thoughts. Brandon positioned me carefully on a spot he'd marked on the floor, his hand surprisingly gentle as they guided me into place. As I knelt there, my hands trembled with anticipation while tracing symbols I now knew were meant to bind me to him, bind Sarah's spirit to an endless torment. The weight of this knowledge settled heavily upon my shoulders like a suffocating shroud. In that moment, I caught sight of Sarah's flickering gaze lingering at the room's edge. Her presence was ethereal yet palpable. I met her eyes and offered a subtle nod that conveyed our silent understanding, a pact forged in shared suffering and unyielding resolve. The air grew thick around us as I waited for Brandon's signal. My heart raced wildly, each beat echoed in my ears like an impending drumroll. With each passing second, tension mounted until it felt electric, sparking with potential energy just waiting to be unleashed. I took a deep breath and began chanting softly under my breath, feeling the rhythm building within me, a melody woven from desperation and hope. "Brandon!" I shouted suddenly, unleashing my voice in perfect unison with Sarah's name echoing through my mind. "Sarah!" The words poured out of me like molten lava, raw and powerful. As if responding to our combined strength, something shifted in the atmosphere. The very fabric of reality seemed to tremble underfoot. I watched in horror as Brandon slammed into an invisible barrier that erupted around him like a sudden storm surge breaking upon the shore. Confusion flashed across his face before it contorted into pure rage. A primal scream ripped from his throat as he staggered back against it, grappling for purchase as if he could physically escape what was happening. My heart pounded like thunder in my chest, adrenaline surged through my veins as realization struck hard. This was no mere ritual, it was our chance at freedom. The oppressive weight of grief and fear had transformed into something potent and unyielding within me. "How is this possible?" he bellowed incredulously, clawing at the air where the barrier encased him like glass, clear yet impenetrable. I stood firm at the center of that charged space between us, feeling every ounce of power gathered from years of pain coalesce around me. "You thought you could control us," I said slowly, my voice steady despite the whirlwind swirling inside me. "But you underestimated our bond." As if summoned by my declaration, shadows began swirling around us, Sarah's spirit resonating within them, dancing with fury born from betrayal and anguish long suppressed beneath layers of silence. The candles flickered wildly as though responding to her unleashed energy, their flames twisted and turned against Brandon's presence like sentinels defending their realm. "Stop this," he shouted again. Desperation laced his tone now as panic began creeping into his eyes, the facade of control crumbling before my very gaze. I felt no sympathy for him now. Instead, righteousness surged through me like wildfire igniting dry brush. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming our lives from the ashes left behind by his torment. With newfound resolve coursing through every fiber of my being, I raised both hands before me, fingers splayed wide, and focused all my energy on pushing back against him. "You will not bind us again." The barrier shimmered violently before releasing waves of heat that rippled outward with each syllable reverberating through space until everything exploded into chaos, a cacophony of sound and fury intertwined with light blindingly bright. In that momentary flash of brilliance when reality fractured around us like glass shattering underfoot, I glimpsed Sarah standing beside me, her expression fierce yet serene, a warrior spirit ready for battle alongside her sister against our shared oppressor. Suddenly everything fell silent, the world suspended in time, held captive by our combined defiance against darkness poised to consume us both once more. My heart raced furiously as I prepared for whatever came next. Together we could rewrite this narrative etched so deeply into our lives, a tale marred by loss now transformed into one forged from resilience and unity in purpose. As shadows danced erratically around us while Brandon struggled helplessly within his prison, I realized we were no longer victims but warriors ready to reclaim what was rightfully ours, freedom from fear and suffering once woven intricately into our existence by one man's cruelty. With determination blazing brightly within, I stepped forward resolutely, the final confrontation drawing near, as two souls united against one dark force prepared for liberation at last. I watched from outside the circle as Brandon threw himself against the invisible barrier, his desperate cries echoing in the dimly lit room. The air was thick with tension, and each thud of his body against the unseen wall sent a chill through me. My fists pounded on air that had transformed into solid resistance, and panic surged within me. I wanted to scream, to run, but I was rooted in place, compelled by the urgency of what needed to happen next. Then I saw her. Sarah materialized beside me, not as a fleeting shadow but as a young woman radiating warmth and light. Her translucent form shimmered softly in the candlelight, and relief flooded my heart at the sight of her. I felt an overwhelming connection. It was as if every moment of pain I had endured since her passing melted away in that instant. She looked at me with eyes filled with gratitude and hope. "I'm here for you," I whispered, my voice barely audible over Brandon's anguished screams. As if she understood every unspoken word, she reached out, her hand passing through mine, a sensation both surreal and grounding. It felt like a great weight lifting from my chest, her silent "thank you" echoing in my mind like a soothing balm. The world around us began to shimmer as Sarah's essence dissolved into golden light, illuminating the room before she sank into the walls and floor. No longer trapped but finally free, her spirit ascended like a gentle breeze on a warm summer day. My heart soared at this unexpected transformation. She was liberated from the shackles of this realm while Brandon remained ensnared in his own despair. I listened to Brandon's screams dissolve into broken sobs behind me, but I didn't turn around. My focus remained solely on Sarah's liberation. The sight stirred something deep within me, a mix of triumph and resolve. His cries were no longer my concern, justice for Sarah had taken precedence over everything else. As I climbed the stairs in a daze, my body shook uncontrollably from adrenaline and relief. The cabin felt different now, less like a sanctuary and more like a tomb holding secrets best left buried. My hands moved with mechanical efficiency as I packed my backpack, each item tossed inside fueled by an urgent need to escape this place that had become an altar of darkness. Opening the heavy front door unleashed a rush of cold night air that hit me like a wave, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere inside. The scent of pine mingled with freedom as it enveloped me, igniting a flicker of courage within my chest. I stepped out into the forest darkness where shadows danced between trees like specters whispering promises of safety. With only my phone flashlight carving a small path ahead, I walked forward into the unknown depths of the woods. Each step felt significant, as if I were not just fleeing but actively reclaiming my agency, determined to call for help and bring justice for Sarah's suffering. The rustling leaves created haunting melodies around me, while every snap of a twig underfoot reminded me of how fragile this freedom was. The forest loomed large yet inviting, its expanse filled with possibility rather than fear now that Sarah was free from Brandon's grip. A sense of purpose drove me deeper into its embrace while shadows shifted around me, reminders of what had transpired within those cabin walls. I needed to ensure that Brandon could never hurt anyone again. His entrapment was merely temporary if left unchecked. Thoughts raced through my mind about how to expose him for what he truly was, a manipulator cloaked in charm who thrived on suffering. At last, reaching a clearing where moonlight poured down like liquid silver, I paused to catch my breath and gather myself. My heart still raced from everything that had unfolded. It felt as if I had emerged from one life only to step into another, one filled with purpose driven by love for Sarah. It dawned on me then that this journey wasn't just about escaping, it was about honoring her memory by ensuring no one else would endure what she had suffered under Brandon's influence. As reality settled around me again, I lifted my phone to dial for help, my fingers trembling slightly as they hovered over the screen, but steadiness soon replaced uncertainty within me. This act would be my final tribute to Sarah, a promise made between us in that fleeting moment when our souls touched across realms. Finally ready to take action, I pressed call with determination coursing through every fiber of my being. The line rang once, twice, and then connected, a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters where justice awaited just beyond reach. This time there would be no turning back. With each heartbeat resounding louder than before, I walked boldly into the night, prepared not only to seek help but also to bring light back into our lives where darkness once thrived unchallenged. I stood by the side of the winding forest road, the cold night air wrapping around me like a shroud. The distant wail of sirens echoed through the trees, bringing both a wave of relief and a tremor of apprehension. Each blare intensified my heart's frantic rhythm, and I felt the weight of what had just transpired settle heavily upon my shoulders. The flashing lights illuminated the darkness, cutting through my tumultuous thoughts as they approached. As I waited for the authorities to arrive, I ran my fingers along my phone, replaying the events in my mind. Every detail felt sharp and vivid: the moment Sarah appeared beside me, Brandon's desperate screams, and that haunting journal hidden beneath the floorboards. I needed to convey all this to someone who would believe me. When the sheriff finally stepped out of his cruiser, his expression was one of measured skepticism. "What exactly happened back there?" he asked, crossing his arms over his chest as if bracing against an incoming storm. I took a deep breath, grounding myself in the reality of my experience. "I was at Brandon's cabin," I began, my voice steady despite the lingering tremors in my hands. "There was a presence there." I paused for a moment, gauging his reaction before pressing on. "I saw Sarah." The sheriff's brow furrowed slightly at the mention of her name, but he remained silent as he gestured for me to continue. I recounted my terrifying experience, how Brandon had trapped Sarah's spirit and how I had managed to free her. As I detailed everything I had witnessed within those cursed walls, including the journal filled with Brandon's sinister intentions, I saw a flicker of intrigue replace some skepticism in his eyes. "You have to understand," I insisted when he remained quiet after my account. "There was more than just supernatural occurrences. There's tangible evidence in that house." My heart raced with urgency as I described the journal's contents, the names listed with dates and ominous notes scribbled alongside them. His demeanor shifted slightly as he nodded toward his deputies who were arriving on scene. "Let's check it out then," he said with newfound determination, motioning for them to follow. I walked alongside him toward Brandon's cabin, feeling an odd sense of vindication swell within me with each step taken on that gravel path. The forest loomed around us as we approached. It felt less like an ominous presence and more like a witness to our resolve. Upon reaching the cabin door, one of the deputies kicked it open with authority. The sight inside was disconcerting yet familiar, the flickering candle still casting shadows against the walls where I had stood moments before battling fear and uncertainty. The sheriff directed his team to search every corner while he turned to me again. "You said there was a journal?" I nodded vigorously. "It should be under the floorboards near the bed." My pulse quickened as they moved cautiously around the room, every creak echoed memories that threatened to overwhelm me again. While they rummaged through drawers and cabinets, I leaned against a nearby wall, watching as their flashlights danced over every surface. My heart sank when one deputy called out from another room, a grave tone slicing through my resolve. "Sheriff, you need to see this." My stomach twisted into knots as I followed him into what had once been Brandon's sanctuary, a space now dripping with tension and foreboding shadows. The deputy pointed down at disturbed earth beneath a loose floorboard, its dark hue contrasted sharply against the pale wood surrounding it. "It looks like someone tried to bury something here," he said quietly as if afraid to disturb whatever lay beneath. At that moment, dread coiled tightly around my chest while anticipation surged within me. They worked quickly but carefully, digging up soil-revealed remnants that sent shivers racing down my spine even without knowing their full extent yet. As they unburied what lay hidden below ground level, time seemed suspended in that cabin haunted by secrets long kept under wraps. It wasn't until later that day when confirmation came through, human remains matching Sarah Hayes were found, missing since 2016, her identity now solidified by tangible evidence instead of just spectral visions swirling in my mind. I stood there absorbing this reality, a profound sense of exhaustion washed over me mixed with quiet satisfaction knowing justice was finally unfolding before our eyes even if it would never be fully accepted by everyone involved. The sheriff turned toward me after receiving updates from his team outside. "We'll need your testimony moving forward." His voice held weight, an acknowledgement not only of what had transpired but also validation for everything I had endured leading up to this point. A mix of emotions flooded through me, relief at having spoken truth into existence yet sadness for what it meant for Sarah's family, closure marred by tragedy still lingering in dark corners beyond comprehension. Today brought forth unsettling revelations about Brandon's true nature, the manipulative facade crumbling beneath scrutiny, but even so. This journey hadn't ended here, it marked merely another beginning as light pierced through shadows once thought impenetrable, setting forth into tomorrow where hope could thrive anew amidst scars left behind by darkness past yet never forgotten altogether. I sat in a bustling coffee shop in Seattle, the rich aroma of roasted beans swirling around me like a comforting embrace. The warmth of the ceramic mug against my palms felt grounding, and for the first time in days, I allowed myself to breathe deeply. Outside, raindrops drummed rhythmically against the window, blurring the world beyond into a watercolor painting of grays and greens. My laptop was open in front of me, and as I sipped my drink, I couldn't help but glance at the news article displayed on the screen: Ashwood Pines man arrested after human remains found on property. With each word I read, a sense of vindication washed over me. Brandon was finally being held accountable for his actions. The article detailed how authorities had uncovered evidence linking him to several missing persons cases in addition to Sarah's tragic fate. My heart swelled with a mix of sorrow and relief. Her spirit could finally rest now that justice was being served. Yet as I continued reading, I stumbled upon another line that sent a chill down my spine. Inconsistencies surrounding my parents' deaths were being investigated again, initially ruled a home invasion. The coffee turned bitter on my tongue as thoughts spiraled through my mind. Had Brandon been involved in their tragedy too? Could his darkness have stretched beyond what I had witnessed? A fog settled over me as doubt crept in despite the warmth enveloping my body. I closed the laptop with a soft click, staring out at the rain-soaked Seattle streets while grappling with this unsettling revelation. How could something so insidious go unnoticed for so long? An icy tendril wrapped around my heart as I thought about what others might say. Some could easily dismiss my experiences as mere delusions or signs of a psychotic break. But deep within me lay an unwavering conviction that everything I had endured was real. It wasn't just chaos masquerading as truth. At that moment, clarity began to emerge from within the storm of uncertainty. My connection with Sarah was not an affliction but rather a gift, a sensitivity that allowed me to see what others could not and help where there was suffering. Through this lens, I understood how her presence had guided me toward freedom, not only for her but for myself as well. I took another sip from my mug, allowing its warmth to soothe my frayed nerves while reflections flooded through me like rainwater filling cracks in pavement. This journey had irrevocably changed me. It was no longer just about escaping Brandon's grasp or seeking vengeance, it was about honoring Sarah's memory and all those who suffered under his manipulative hand. Today marked a new beginning, one where acceptance replaced fear. The chaos that had once consumed my life now faded into distant echoes as understanding emerged like sunlight breaking through clouds after a storm. With newfound purpose igniting within me, I resolved to reach out, to share Sarah's story and ensure others would not fall victim to Brandon's darkness again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as inspiration coursed through every fiber of my being. What if I wrote about what happened? What if sharing this truth could help someone else find their own voice amidst despair? As words began to flow onto the page, I envisioned families gathering together, sharing their pain while supporting one another through healing journeys sparked by our collective experiences. With each keystroke came hope, an opportunity for connection forged through shared struggles. Before long, the coffee shop buzzed around me like bees flitting between flowers, yet here in this cozy corner, time seemed suspended while possibilities unfolded before my eyes like petals blooming under spring's sun. Eventually, after pouring everything onto that blank canvas before me, an overwhelming sense of peace settled in, the kind that can only come from acceptance and understanding intertwined within every heartbeat. I learned that true strength lies not merely in overcoming darkness but also embracing light found within ourselves despite life's chaos. Finally ready to close this chapter while opening another one filled with purpose and connection ahead of me, I took one last sip from my mug before standing up and collecting my belongings. As I walked toward the door, stepping into the cool embrace of rain-kissed air outside felt invigorating, a reminder that life continues even after storms pass. My heart raced with anticipation of what lay ahead. Brighter days awaited just beyond every shadow cast by yesterday's fears, a promise fulfilled through resilience born from love and hope guiding us forward. Did you like this story? Leave a like, comment your thoughts and subscribe for more stories.